Hello gorgeous people, Jay here from borntoproduce.com and welcome to our brand new and updated progressive house course for Cubase. For those of you that are familiar with Born to Produce tutorials, you'll know that we're going to make this track absolutely from nothing right through to the final mixdown and master, and it's going to be a full professional track. And it normally takes around 25 to 30 lessons or so. So stick with me and you'll be able to make this track with me. Okay, so I'm also going to be showing you exactly in what order I made this track, because I have made this track before. So for example, do I start with the drums, or do I start with the melodies, or the chord progression, or whatever? I'm going to show you exactly how I make my tunes, but just bear in mind obviously that every producer has their own way of working, so there's no right or wrong way. Okay, so let's get on with creating an empty project and setting up. So on the Steinberg Hub, just come over to More, click Empty, and make sure prompt for project location is on, and click Create. And I'm going to create a new folder, Prog House Tutorial 2019. And the first thing we need to do is just name this project, as it says Untitled 1 at the moment. So just File, Save As, and within the folder that we just created, just going to name it down here. Let's call it Lesson 1. So just a couple of very quick things we need to do to set up, and then we'll start making this track. So just check your sound card, go to Studio Setup, and just make sure under VST Audio System you select your sound card stroke interface from this drop down menu. I would normally be using the Yamaha Steinberg UR22, but just to record this tutorial I'm using the software voice meter. So that's that, and the only other thing we need to do is come to Project Setup, or Shift and S. Project length is usually okay, it's 7 minutes, so that should be okay for us. And sample rate, I like to work at 44.1 and bit depth of 24. Okay, so let's get on with it. Let's just turn off my lower zone, don't need that at the moment. So how I like to work is, personally, I bring in a kick drum and then I make some melodies and chords around that, and I just use the kick drum for timing, as a timing reference. But obviously you can use metronome if you want to, which is down here. You can activate the metronome. You don't have to bring in a kick drum, but obviously you're going to bring one in anyway, so might as well do it now. So just before we do that, let's set our tempo. Just going to click and drag up to 127. Prog house is generally ranges between 124, 128, that sort of thing. And I'm going to go to File Browser, and I'm going to choose a kick drum from our very own Born to Produce Club Tools 1 sample pack. And don't worry, if you want to follow along and you have purchased this course, we do give you all the samples. We give you everything basically that you need to follow along in the work files. Once you've purchased the course and downloaded the work files, everything's in there. So let's go to kicks and have a little listen. Pretty sure I used the kick 18. But there's some right nice ones, like 16 actually. But as I used 18 before, let's use it again. So what I do though is always right click and create a sampler track, because the reason is I can easily change the sample later on. If I want to change the kick later on, it's just so simple to do. So I normally start somewhere up around bar 100, let's say. So we've got loads of room for building an intro and, the first part of the track. Well, as you know, if you're a follower of these tutorials, I always start, or nearly always start, with the main bulk of the track. Let's get the main energy of the track worked out first, and then we can go on and do the intro and the verse and all the rest of it. So I normally like to work on an 8-bar loop, sometimes a bit longer. So I'm just going to zoom in by clicking and dragging down, or you can use G&H. I will be using G&H quite a lot to zoom in and out. There's my sample down here in the sample track, which we just put kick 18 in, and we've just got to trigger that now in our sampler track. So we've just got to draw a bit of MIDI in. So just hold down Alt or Option, get the draw tool, and just draw in 1 bar, and then I can just duplicate it over in a second. Let's just draw in again, just zoom in and draw in 4 kick drums on each beat, which are these beats up here. Let's turn this down, because once we start adding many other things into this track, all the volumes are going to sum together and then it's going to cause distortion. So let's turn this right down. The very first thing you bring into your track, whatever it is, always bring it down, especially if it's a energetic element like a kick drum. And let's just go to mixer and see where we are. You can see we're already peaking, it's already gone red. So let's just see where this kick is coming in terms of the volume. And we're just over -12 there, so that's fine. Let's duplicate this across. You can either press Control D or Command D, or just click and drag this middle right hand icon. Now I probably will EQ this in a later lesson just to make it a bit more punchy or whatever, but I just want to, in this first lesson, take you through how I approach the track. So the next thing I would do here is, rather than worry about EQing kicks at this stage, let's get our melody in, our really important catchy melody, or at least a nice chord progression. So the best thing to do is, if you're not really a piano player like myself, is just come to chord pads, and we're going to cheat basically. So again, I'm not even thinking about what key this is going to be in. I'm literally just going to try and get some chord progressions down, something that sounds nice, and then I'm going to literally create a melody over the top of it, probably in the next lesson. But let's just see if we can get a chord progression down. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use D minor. Most dance music is written in minor keys. Let's get the show hide chord assistant. Let's get all the help we can get. Obviously, if you are very knowledgeable in music theory, then you don't need this section, but this is for probably most people who are probably beginners at music theory. We need these chords to trigger something like a piano or something like that. So I'm just going to right click, add instrument track, and use the inbuilt Halion Sonic SE, because there's some really great sounding pianos in this VST. So I'm going to come up to the search bar, make sure all of your search items have not been ticked or anything like that, otherwise it's going to filter. So make sure you're not filtering anything, and just type in piano. And there's a couple of pianos I like on here. One is called the Hard Grand Piano, and another one is called Mono Upright, and because it won't come up in the search term piano because it's called Mono Upright. But obviously you can also search by category here, so you can go and come into piano here and you'll get all the pianos come up. So we've got Hard Grand Piano loaded up, and I can trigger it with my mouse or my MIDI keyboard. In order to trigger that with your MIDI keyboard, just make sure you're either on Record Enable or Monitor here on the track itself. And once again, we will turn this down as well, in line with our kick. Let's just get a rough balance between the kick and the piano. Okay, so so I wrote this song in D minor, but there was no rhyme or reason really for that. The only thing you might want to consider is tuning your kick drum to the bass, but we'll do all that later. At this stage, as I say, it's just a matter of getting the melody right. You can always change the key later, you can always change the sound later. So let's right click D minor and assign to pad and use as origin. So D minor is now in the middle. This is the circle of fifths. So basically all these chords here in this triangle are related, and it's just a matter of playing around. You can come outside of this triangle, it's okay, all these are related and they're perfect fifths on the outside, I believe. So something like that sounds okay. And what we'll do is we'll bring in these very basic chords, and then we'll start making them more interesting once we've got them into the project. So it's going to come down and then come up again. So let's just drag these in. D. we'll finish on the 1 chord. Always a nice resolve. So this is going to sound super boring at the moment, but we will be adapting these chords definitely to make them more interesting. And we can change the voicings and the tension. So the voicings are here. So you get like inversions and you play them further up the keyboard. Loads of different voicings. And you'll notice that they're all changing. If you look at these white notes here, you can see that all of them are adapting to when I change the voicing of this B7. And that's because they've all got this adaptive voicing on AV. And what you can do is right click and just take that off if you wish to. And tensions is the same. We will be changing those tensions as well. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave it there for lesson 1. We've set up, we've had a very quick listen to the track we're going to make together. We've brought in the kick drum and we've made a very, very basic chord progression, which in the next lesson will make a lot more interesting. So I'll see you then. Bye bye.